Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the IU Natatorium here on the campus of IUPUI, downtown Indianapolis, as we get Day 4, Session 10 underway here of the 2021 Speedo Sectionals. I'm Eric Eaton, and I'm joined by the Executive Director of Indiana Swimming, Tony Young, for this final day of competition here at the IU Natatorium. A reminder again, this is a two-site event. We're swimming here at the IU Natatorium and also up at Elkhart. And all heats here this morning. This is a women's session combined finals, meaning the overall winner can come out of any heat at either site. The fastest heats of our events this morning will be swum tonight in our championship session. We're about ready to go here with event 23. First swim of the morning session here, the women's 200-meter individual medley time final. We'll have 13 heats of time finals. We'll start here with heat 1. In lane 2, Audrey Butcher, 14-year-old from Firestone Akron Swim Team. Lane 3, Sophia Walker, 14-year-old from Power Aquatics. Lane 4 is Amy Nguyen, 16-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 5, Madeline Bossler, 15-year-old from Westerville Aquatic Club. Lane 6 is Grace Norman, 18-year-old from Ole Swimming. And in lane 7, Lillian Bailey, a 13-year-old from United Swim Association. The swimmers have not been yet asked to get up on the starting blocks here for our first swim, the 200-meter IM. These swimmers will get started with the butterfly. And we've got these swimmers in the pool. Let's run down the champions from yesterday, day 2, combined women and men's champions here at this event. It was Anna Poplowski winning the 200 freestyle event in a time of 2:00.66 on the men's competition.
That's day 2.
That was day 2. We'll get you day 3 here in a moment. Out first here at the 50 turn here is Amy Nguyen in lane 4 from Fishers area. She transitioned to backstroke.
After 3 days with these athletes and calling their races, it seems like we get to know them. You know, we recognize names, we know where their strengths are and what events they've swum. And over there in lane number 2, that is Savald. And this is from fast. There's 2 fasts in the meet. One is Firestone Akron Swim Team, which is Audrey's team, and then Fishers Area Swimming Tigers. So if you see fast on the scoreboard, there's 2 different teams. So Savald first to the 100 at a 1:10.72. She was a 38.0 on that backstroke split, fastest split in the pool. In the 200 IM, leads can change, particularly in meters. So we will kind of talk about splits, not necessarily who's the fastest swimmer in the lead, but potentially the athletes that are making a move strategically or emphasizing their best stroke in the IM.
So Savald still with the lead in lane 2.
Coming up strong in lane number 4. And that is Nguyen from fast. And that is the Fishers Area Swimming Tigers fast. And Amy splits a 43.74.
Had a good turn there, along with Bossler right next to her.
And Sophie Walker from Power Aquatics actually had the best breaststroke split. So the lead has changed. And it looks like we may be 4 to 5 wide as they get underneath the flags.
Could be. It's Nguyen and Bossler with the lead right now in lanes 4 and 5. Got a challenge coming in lane 7 here from Lillian Bailey from United Swim Association. And this opening heat looks like it'll go to Bossler in lane 5. Madeline Bossler with a winning time of 2:33.53.
What makes that swim so special is this is a bonus swim. So she's taking advantage of the extra swim that comes with qualifying for the Speedo sectional meet. So hopefully getting a best time.
Amy Nguyen, 2:34.14. Second, third place was Bailey in a time of 2:34.67, I believe. Heat 2 now. Lane 1, Chloe Talbert, 15-year-old from Indiana Swim Club. Lane 2 is Alexandra Vottel, 14-year-old from the Novi Sturgeons. Lane 3 is going to be Alexis Pelks, 12-year-old from United Swim Association. Lane 4 is Riley Brick, 17-year-old from Warren Aquatics Club. Lane 5 is Annie Spilito, 15-year-old from Westfield Aquatics. Lane 6, Molly Simmons, 15-year-old from Zionsville Swim Club. Lane 7, Brooke Thompson, 16-year-old from Motor City Aquatics. And in lane 8, Abigail Miller, a 17-year-old from Fishers Area Swimming Tigers.
Speedo sectional cut, 2:29.59. So this is a goal of all of these athletes is to repeat this cut for 2021, so it's good for next year's meet, this summer's meet, and that time does belong to the swimmer. Abigail Miller from Fast. That's Fishers Area Swimming Tigers in lane 8. No slow lanes here at the natatorium. And Abigail really building her 50 backstroke here. Transitions, not turns, transitions from long axis stroke to short axis stroke. Not an easy thing to do. Athletes trying to work their turns, but also transitioning into the muscle groups that they're going to use. Long breaststroke underwater pulls and finding their strokes right away. Stroke rhythm and stroke efficiency. Keep an eye on lane number 6. That is Molly Simmons from Zionsville. Started to make a move on the breaststroke, top of your screen in lane number 2 as well. That's Bodel. She is from Novi Sturgeons out of Michigan. So by watching the broadcast, sometimes you get to see a lot of new teams, a lot of athletes and teams across the Midwest and the country that you may not traditionally see. It's kind of neat to see so many fast swimmers from across the United States.
One turn left here in heat 2. Freestyle underway.
Abigail Miller still your leader. She splits a 47.19, but Spoleto split a 45.35. Fastest split actually goes to Bodel in lane 2 at a 44.51 on that breaststroke split. Tight race. Leads do change in the IMs. The closing speed is oh so important.
See if Abigail Miller can hang on in lane 8 here at the finish. And she does. She goes a 2:23.59.
2:33.59.
2:33.59. And second place was Simmons, 2:33.69. And third place, right below her, was Brooke Thompson, 2:33.97. As we move to heat 3 now. In lane 1, Charlotte Laycock, 16-year-old from United Swim Association. Lane 2 is Paige Potter, a 15-year-old from Liquid Lightning. Lane 3 is going to be Kiara Thomas, 13-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 4 is Tegan Madara, 15-year-old from Power Aquatics. Lane 5 is Carlin Barksdale, 17-year-old from Zionsville Swim Club. Lane 6, Zoe Barkley, 18-year-old from Dayton Raiders. Lane 7 is Kaylee Kelly, a 16-year-old from Mount Vernon Swim Team. Lane 8 is Chloe Vidito, 14-year-old from Greenwood Gators. Meet record, by the way, set in 2007 is 2:14.13. Your Olympic trial cut in this event is 2:17.39.
This is an age group to senior developmental meet. We have athletes as young as 12 years old in this meet, and a lot of our top-end age groupers are getting a lot of experience against elite athletes, which is, in particular, a great thing to have faster swimmers than you to challenge yourself, but also in long course meters. Since we haven't had long course races in quite a few months, or very few of them, many of these athletes are hitting the long course pool to gain experience, and so you're going to see a lot of best times because some of the entry times may be quite old.
Looks like at the bottom of your screen here in lane 8, transitioning to back to breast. The leader is Chloe Vidito.
Nice underwater pull-out from Chloe. Chloe from Greenwood Gators here in the Indianapolis area. Taking off strong in lane number 3 on the breaststroke leg. That is Kiara Thomas from Carmel. Also making a move, top of your screen, Laycock and Potter in 2. So 1, 2, and 3 making moves, and so is 7 and 8. Bottom of our screen is still Chloe Vidito. If you're watching from home, remember lane 1 is at the top of your screen, lane 8 at the bottom. Tight races. Goal is to get off the wall quickly. Hand touch to foot touch in less than 1.0 seconds.
This race looks like with a half a lap to go is going to be decided between lane 7 and 8 here. We got Kelly in 7 and Vidito in 8.
Boy, they jumped off that turn wall down there. Vidito with a nice long stroke, keeping good strong efficiency as she increases her tempo into the wall.
So Vidito will win the third heat in a time of 2:29.81. Second place, Kelly, 2:31.43. Third place, Thomas, 2:33.36. In heat 4, lane 1, Anna Gearhart, 14-year-old from the WTRC Shark swim team. Lane 2 is Emily Buning, 16-year-old from Washington Township swim team. Lane 3 is Alexandra Nodal, 17-year-old from Westerville Aquatic Club. Lane 4 is Scarlett Mason, 14-year-old from Sunrise Side Swim Club. Lane 5, Devin Olson, 17-year-old from the Dayton Raiders. Lane 6, Haley Reed, 17-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. And in lane 7, Lillian Newkirk, 18-year-old from Boonville Dolphins. And in lane 8, Marina Sneed, a 16-year-old from Ole Swimming. As they get this race underway, let's recap the champions yesterday here in day 3 of this competition, combined sights. In the women's 100-meter backstroke, it was Barrett Berglund in a time of 1:01.20. Will Modlin won the men's competition 55:04. 400 freestyle champion on the women's side, Lucy Malis in a time of 4:16.22 from Ole. Zachary Ward won the men's competition at a time of 3:58.97. 100-meter breaststroke women's champion Lily King from the Indiana Swim Club set a new meet record in winning that competition 1:05.32. We also had a new meet record in the men's race as well. It was tied for the new meet record in the championship at 1:00.31 with Cody Miller and Joshua Matheny winning that competition. 200 butterfly women's champion Hannah Bellard, 2:13.91, and in the men's race, the 200-meter butterfly went to Miles Schmachlow with a time of 1:59.45. That was also a new meet record.
First to the wall, lane number 7, Lillian Newkirk from Boonville.
Haley Reed in second, right above her, and Reed.
Did that change the scoreboard change on us?
Yeah, we're in heat 4.
Okay. Well, I looked up and thought I saw Boonville, and it was in lane 7, so my mistake.
Yeah.
That was Sneed first to the wall from Ole. Making a move on the breaststroke leg, lane number 6. Haley Reed from Carmel, really separating herself from the field right now. Again, we see the leads change due to the strength of their strokes, but also the starts and turns, the transitions, getting athletes off the wall here in particular. If you're swimming freestyle while everyone else is swimming breaststroke, it is a distinct advantage. And your leader is Haley Reed. She splits a 44.64 on that breaststroke leg.
Yeah, she looks to be pretty strong in the freestyle here as well. Half a lap to go for Haley. Battle looks like it'll be for second at the end of this heat. Haley Reed is going to win this in lane 6 from the Carmel Swim Club. Winning time will be 2:30.12 for Haley. And second place was Buning, 2:31.91. Third place, Nodal, in a time of 2:32.97. As we move to heat 5 now, time finals. Women's 200 individual medley. In lane 1, Haley Sackman, 17-year-old from Terre Haute Torpedoes. Lane 2 is Amaya Toma, a 17-year-old from Utica Shelby Swim Club. Lane 3, we have Audrey Butcher, 15-year-old from Westerville Aquatic Club. Lane 4, Eliana Zabo, 17-year-old from Hudson Explorer Aquatic. Lane 5 is Claire Lippert, 16-year-old from Utica Shelby Swim Club. Lane 6, Mackenzie Pierce, 17-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 7 is Roberta Fisher, 16-year-old from Hydro Aquatics. And in lane 8, Sophia Resner, 17-year-old from the Noblesville Swim Club.
Well, the Sunday morning events, the 200 IM, is always one of the most challenging because you're in your 4th day of competition. And coaches are really good at not only race management, but meet management. In other words, helping the athletes prepare for the 4th day of competition, not just the 1st day. Audrey Butcher. Audrey's from Westerfield Aquatic Club. 31.15 on the way out. So an athlete that comes in first but comes out and loses places, obviously that is a turn, but it's also changing muscle groups, so the breakout changes. So going from fly to backstroke, yes, it is dolphin kick, but it's dolphin kicks on your back. So getting into position to take those kicks and maximizing the power out of those kicks is what makes the IM so special.
Claire Lippert in lane 5 taking control of the race now on the backstroke leg as she transitions to breaststroke.
So you watch our athletes take that dolphin kick, many of them with their hands out to the front as they push off in a streamlined position, others with their hands at the hips taking the dolphin kick.
Looks like we're going to see a challenge here from lane 4. That's Zabo.
Yep. Watch the bottom of our screen. Looks like we got a good breaststroke leg going from Sophia Resner from Noblesville. You know, the efficiency of the breaststroke here helps with the closing speed at the end. So as the athletes, you know, really push their breaststroke, they may sacrifice a little bit on the freestyle closing speed. So this is where the efficiency of the stroke comes into play, conserving energy.
Lippert is still going to turn at the freestyle leg in lane 5 as the leader.
Fastest breaststroke split goes to lane number 7. That's Roberta Fisher at a 43.36. That's quite a bit faster than many of the other swimmers. She's from Hydra.
Lippert still leading, less than a half a lap to go. Zabo still in second, right above her, lane 4. So Lippert's going to stop the clock in a winning time of 2:29.46. And second place was Zabo, 2:31.16 in the heat. Third place, Mackenzie Pierce, 2:32.94 as we move to heat 6 now. In lane 1 is Hannah Connolly, a 17-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 2 is Maggie Hadley, 15-year-old from Zionsville Swim Club. Lane 3 is Evelyn DiCarlo, 17-year-old from Worthington Swim Club out of Ohio. Lane 4 is Sophia McCarty, 18-year-old from Dayton Raiders. Lane 5 will be Josie Conley, 15-year-old from Ole Swimming. And lane 6, Olivia Goodman, a 17-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 7, Millie Evans, a 13-year-old from the Buckeye Swim Club. And in lane 8, we have Emma Kate Zanoli, 15-year-old from Ole Swimming.
It's kind of show you just, and we've referenced this a couple times, the effects of COVID is that all of our athletes in these 9 heats are all seated when they were entered at yard times. So that shows the lack of long course opportunities in the last year. Futures cut, 2:26.39. We'll see some of these athletes starting getting closer to futures and USA Swimming Junior National cuts in the next few heats. Josie Conley from Ole, 30.79. The transition award goes to lane number 7. That's Millie Evans from Buckeye. Beautiful transition into her backstroke, finding her rhythm of her stroke right away. So the back to breast turns, we'll see transition turns that are open turns and transition turns that are rollover turns. You see that also in lane number 7. The speed of the turn is quicker. Does take a little bit away. You don't get to breathe for quite a while as you rotate through that turn. So the quickness is either a sacrifice of that or distance off the underwater pullout, unless you're somebody who really practices it and races it. Top of our screen with a nice move. That's Hannah Conley from Carmel.
And Josie Conley still the leader in lane 5 as she approaches the final turn and transitioning to freestyle.
Conley, lane 1, Conley with an O, and lane 5, Conley with an E. It's like they're about 6 or 7 wide at the wall, transitioning out of breaststroke, except for your leader. And that is Josie Conley in 5 at a 45.69 split. But Sophia McCarty and Maggie Hanley from Zionsville are both 43s on that split. So the field has evened up for second.
Nice swim here by Josie Conley out of Ole. He's going to take the heat win. in a time of 2:27.77.
Just off the futures cut.
Second place was Evans, lane 7, 2:32.47. Third place, lane 8, Zanoli, in a time of 2:32.63 as we move to heat 7. In lane 1, Addison Carlisle, 12-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 2 is Caitlin Sims, 17-year-old from the United Swim Association. Lane 3, we have Morgan Hoffmeister, a 16-year-old from the United Swim Association. Lane 4, Alyssa Street, 14-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 5 is Diane Koo, 17-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 6 is Ava Loria, 16-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 7, Molly Warner, the 15-year-old from Utica Shelby Swim Club. And in lane 8, Stacy Sarabellis, an 18-year-old from Force Aquatic Swim Club out of Ohio.
A little shout out to Diane Koo. She's our senior athlete rep here in the Indiana LSC, helping to build leadership amongst our athletes. And first to the wall is Alyssa Street from Carmel at a 30.61. Occasionally you'll see athletes and you'll watch and you say, well, they touched first. How come it didn't show on the scoreboard? You'll see athletes occasionally will grab the top of the gutter instead of shutting off that touchpad underneath. And grabbing the top of the gutter is not the most sensitive part of the touchpad, so their feet actually set off the touchpad.
Alyssa Street, lane 4, the leader right now on the backstroke leg here in the 200 IM.
And she's got a lot of momentum going into the back to breast turn. Let's see how she attacks it. Big breath off the open turn to maximize that breaststroke underwater pullout. Alyssa splits a 35.32, and that is the fastest backstroke split of the field. Top of your screen is Addison Carlisle, starting to make a move on the breaststroke, as well as lane 7, Molly Warner.
Coaches and swimmers, just a reminder, we will be having a brief 5-minute break at the conclusion of the 200 IM here before we move into 100 freestyle.
Alyssa Street going to turn as the leader down at the far end of the pool still. She's won this pretty much wire to wire this heat.
44.02 for Alyssa. Remember, futures cut 226.39. USA Swimming Junior National cut 220.99. So Alyssa, sometimes use the time standards to show what level the athlete are swimming at, not necessarily that they made the cut, but shows they've made the progression to the next level.
Diane Koo with a nice freestyle leg in lane 5, moving herself into second. The Street's going to win the heat in the time of 2:24.84. And second place was Koo, 2:27.76. Third place, Warner, 2:28.53. As we move to heat 8 now. In lane 1, we have Grace Doherty, 15-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 2, Avery Stein, 15-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 3 is Ashley Swingewood, 17-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 4 is Mia Nagel, 17-year-old from Firestone Akron. Lane 5 is Julia Quinoman, 15-year-old from Firestone Akron. Lane 6 is Sydney Brandt, 15-year-old from the Great Lakes Tritons. Lane 7, Margaret Patterson, 16-year-old from Hudson Explorer Aquatic. Lane 8, Devin Trammell, an 18-year-old from Center Grove Aquatic Club.
One of the things I've enjoyed most about this broadcast is just the names of the clubs. There's some pretty cool names out there. Again, USA Swimming futures cut 2:26.39, and that 2:24 in that last heat is our fastest time so far.
It is.
First to the wall is Margaret Patterson from Heat. It's Hudson Explorer Aquatics out of Lake Erie, LSC in Ohio. Top of our screen, Grace Doherty from Carmel. Two solid backstroke splits here. Field starting to build into the 100. As they approach the walls, watch how the athletes swim and keep their pace into the wall. If they slow down and glide into the wall, that takes away a little bit from that transition. Even though it's an open turn, gives them a lot of momentum for their heels and hips to get to the wall and quick turn and off into their breaststroke leg. Top of our screen, Doherty. Coming on in lane number 2 is Avery Stein from Fishers. Fishers Area Swimming Tigers here in Indy. Remember, there are 2 fasts in this meet. Firestone Akron and Fishers Area Swimming Tigers. Still your leader, Grace Doherty. But watch lane number 4 with a great breaststroke split there. That is Nagel.
And basically pulled up even with Doherty. It looked like they're on the transition.
She is from the Firestone Akron swim team.
Let's watch lane 7 here on the freestyle leg. Molly
Boy,
Warner.
She did come off quick.
Excuse me, Patterson.
Yeah, she came off quick.
Doherty's still hanging on up there in lane 1.
Doherty's breathing right, so she sees her competition. Underneath the flags, you're right, lane 7.
Doherty's going to win the heat in a time of 2:27.20. And second place was Nagel in lane 4, 2:28.20. Closing to get third was Patterson in lane 7 in a time of 2:28.32. As we move to heat 9, and it's going to be our final heat swum in the morning session. Heats 10 through 13 will swim tonight. In lane 1, Kiera Leisinger, 16-year-old from Riptide out of Minnesota. Lane 2 is Paige Delma, 15-year-old from Worthington Swim Club. Lane 3, we have Caitlin Salos, a 14-year-old from Buckeye Swim Club. Lane 4, Grace Lux, the 16-year-old from Fishers Area. Lane 5 is Ryan Russell, 16-year-old from Utica Shelby. Lane 6, Sophie Curtis, a 16-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 7, Anna Stoll, 15-year-old from the Southeastern Swim Club of Fishers. And in lane 8, Sierra Mason, 16-year-old from the Sunrise Side Swim Club out of Michigan.
Fastest time swum so far, 2:24.84. Back in heat 7, it's Alyssa Street. That's the time to beat. That's the target out there for heat number 9. First to the wall, Rianne Russell with a 30.53, one of the fastest splits on the way out so far. Utica Shelby Swim Club representative.
And moving up to challenge Russell here on the backstroke leg in lane 3 is Salos from Buckeye.
Back to breast transitions upcoming here at the start end. And again, watch your favorite ad. There's a backstroke rollover turn for Salos and an open turn lane 5 for Russell. So you can just the comparisons of how the turns look, distance off the pullouts and speed. Does it help you to have quick turns in a tight race? Do you sacrifice length off your breaststroke pullout length and power? So that it's all about what works for the swimmer.
So like lane 1 maybe coming on in here on the breaststroke leg here. That's Leisinger.
So you can tell by the tempo. She's really driving that stroke forward. You can see the power in her legs out there in lane number 1. Top of your screen.
Salos is still going to lead in lane 3 at the turn, transitioning to freestyle.
40.49 for Leisinger. It's about 3 seconds faster than most anyone else in the pool. But coming on strong back and answering back is Russell in lane number 5. Anna Stoll from Southeastern Swim Club, Stoley.
Salos is going to win this final heat of the morning session, heat 9. See what her winning time is. It's going to be 2:24.37, and that's going to be the time to beat. Moving to our evening session, at least here from this site. We'll see what happens up at Elkhart. Second place was Leisinger, lane 1, 2:28.44. Third place, Russell in lane 5, 2:28.90.
5-minute break before we head into the heats of the 100 freestyle. If you're watching our broadcasts throughout the day, we're a half an hour earlier for the men's session and a half an hour earlier for the championship session. So the broadcast and the event for the men's session will start at 12, not 12:30. And your championship session will start at 6, not 6:30. So half an hour earlier for both the men's session and the championship session if you're going to be watching all of your favorite swimmers throughout the day.
So a 5-minute break in the order of events after the break here. The women's 100-meter freestyle. And then we'll move to the 1,500, the metric mile. We'll have a couple heats of time finals in that.
Again, on the fourth day, sometimes it's about meet management. How are those athletes? And the conceptual thoughts are, you come in, athlete swims their events, and they go home. Through 4 days of competition, plus arriving a day early to acclimate and get the pool, these athletes are swimming a lot of yardage. And you wonder, throughout the year, why do we swim so many yards? And it's not just about the competition component. If your body needs to recover after an event, or you're warming up prior to the event, or midday, you don't have, let's say that you don't have an event on day 2, you're in the pool practicing on day 2. So the athletes are practicing and preparing throughout the 4 days of competition. And when you go to events like Olympic trials or U.S. nationals, or even some 4-day Central Zone 14 and under championships, that's a lot of swimming. And the athletes spend a lot of time in the water, and they acclimate to this through their practices. You know, coaches, for an example, do a morning practice and an afternoon practice. In a prelims and final meet, you're simulating what you're doing. And it's just about, sometimes it's a mental thing, but most of the time it's physical. And then don't forget the team outside the pool is how do you get those kids fed? How do you get them transitioned back to the hotel to make sure that they're resting? How do you make sure that they get home quick after finals and not spend an hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes in a restaurant trying to feed 15 kids? And it takes forever to get your food, and the kids are getting home at 10:30, 11, and they're tired the next morning when it's time to swim. So the team outside the pool, sometimes that's parents, sometimes it's assistant coaches, a huge part of meet management.
Yeah, that part of it, the food under the COVID situation, is probably a lot of carry-out situation right now. It'd be difficult to get 15, 20 athletes into a restaurant all together at the same time because of capacity limitations.
Well, I will tell you, with the NCAA tournament in town, there was a lot of people in downtown Indianapolis. So trying to get into a restaurant was going to be a hassle for a group of athletes unless you've made pre-arrangements.
Yeah, you've done that, then you can work.
But even that, you go into a restaurant, Italian restaurant like Buca, and it's packed. That means the kitchen staff is under, a lot of pressure to get food out, and you may not get the food as quickly as what you think you would. So I think a lot of coaches work with the hotels and try to get catered meals at the hotels to make sure that these athletes get the rest. And that's a big part of it. So race management, it's about these 5-minute breaks occasionally. How does this help these athletes recover? You have athletes in the 200 IM that may be jumping right into one of the next heats of the 100 freestyle. So these strategic breaks are placed within the format to make sure that coaches understand that there will be a break there, or athletes understand there'll be a break there. And they may say, get right out of the 200 IM. Hey, we'll talk about your IM later. Why don't you get right to the warm-up, warm-down pool? And I keep, how you picture that. It's really not warm-up, warm-down. It's warm-up, cool-down. But in our diving well, it's nice and warm, and that's why you see so many kids in it. They love the warmer water. But the strategic breaks are key to performance, and the athletes know that. They'll go to meets throughout the year and have 5 events in a day, and but they'll have a lot of heats in between, or have different genders in between. Here, where it's all the females swimming in one session. Same thing will happen for the males in the afternoon session. So there is no natural break of another gender swimming their events in front of you. So less rest. So it means strategic rest. And why do we have the session set up this way is probably a great question for most people. Obviously, we're trying to follow the protocols here in Indianapolis, whether it is our local health and state guidelines, but also the IU natatorium and the guidelines of the capacity of the amount of athletes and the total amount of people we can have in the venue at certain times. So we've created a a structure both in Elkhart and in Indy, so we can take over 1,000 athletes, split them into 2 sites, and make sure the right amount of athletes are in each session to meet all of our protocols. It takes a lot of preparation, so a lot of people worked months on end to be able to create this scenario to make sure the athletes have these opportunities.
And it's gone extremely well. And I also want to thank all the volunteers that helped to make this event possible this weekend, both sites here in Elkhart. So we're about probably less than a minute away now from event 27, women's 100-meter freestyle. 18 heats of time finals. Looks like we'll swim through heat 14, I believe. We'll swim through heat 14 here in the morning session. Heats 15 through 18 we'll swim tonight in the championship session, which begins at 6 p.m. here at the IU Natatorium. So the athletes headed out here for heat 1. Meet record set by Amy Bilquist in 2014, 55.59. Olympic trial cut in this event, the 100-meter freestyle for the women, 56.29. Lane assignments here for heat 1. In lane 2 is Molly Stout, 15-year-old from Indiana Swim Club. Lane 3, Devin Trammell, 18-year-old from Center Grove Aquatic Club. Lane 4 is Lauren Valentine, 16-year-old from Liquid Lightning out of Michigan. Lane 5, Hannah Jones, 17-year-old from Westfield Aquatics. Lane 6, Naomi Weaver, 16-year-old from the Greenwood Gators. And in lane 7, we have Alexa Folke, a 14-year-old swimming unattached from GTAC out of Ohio.
So the first 6 heats that we have are athletes swimming with bonus cuts, which means that they've qualified in an individual event, some other individual event, but they had to be able to swim the 104.09, have a best time in that, whether it's long course or the transition to the yard cut, to be able to swim this bonus event. And this is experience giving the opportunity to make another cut. We'll watch the second 50s across all heats that we're watching this morning. Your leader in lane number 7, it's Alexa Folke. And she is from unattached GTAC in Ohio. First to the wall in long course meters doesn't always mean you'll touch first, so this is much different than a short course race with bulkheads and a lot of underwater dolphin kicking, much more open water between the flags.
And Devin Trammell in the opening heat, 103.43 for Devin.
32.85 on that second 50, so she's the fastest in the field on the back half.
Second place was Valentine, 104.29. Third place, Stout, 104.72. In heat 2, lane 1, Alexa Bolot, 16-year-old from Westfield Aquatics. Lane 2 is Devin Olson, 17-year-old from Dayton Raiders. Lane 3, Maya McDonald, 15-year-old Noblesville Swim Club. Lane 4 is Chloe Vitito, a 14-year-old from the Greenwood Gators. Lane 5, Maggie Hadley, 15-year-old from the Zionsville Swim Club. Lane 6, Bryn Conrad, 15-year-old from United Swim Association. Lane 7, Carlin Barksdale, 17-year-old from Zionsville Swim Club. And in lane 8, Savannah Mueller, 17-year-old from the Mako Swim Team.
Many of our athletes in a short course yards 100 freestyle breathing change, and really talked about breathing in long course compared to short course. But not as quick to the wall. Athletes will take in more air in a 100-meter freestyle. As Michael Phelps was always asked, why do you breathe so much in your races? And that's Savannah Mueller in lane number 8 from Mako Swim Team. And that's because he would take 8 to 10 dolphin kicks off every wall. So he was utilizing much of his aerobic capacity off his turns and breakouts.
Got Olson in lane 2 from the Dayton Raiders with the lead, being challenged here at the finish by Barksdale in 7. And Olson will win the second heat, 102.71. Second place in that heat was Barksdale, 103.38. Third place, we had Maya McDonald, 104.09. Heat 3 now. Lane 1, Molly Sweeney, 13-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 2 is Paige Potter, 15-year-old from Liquid Lightning. Lane 3 is Allison Vasilikos, 17-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 5 is Rachel Dawson, 15-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 5, Hannah Weldon, 16-year-old from Hudson Explorer Aquatic. Lane 6, Abigail Harvey, 17-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 7 is Alois Harrison, a 14-year-old from Southeastern Swim Club. And in lane 8, we have Reagan Cotterer, a 16-year-old from Forest Aquatic Swim Club. Good start, top of your screen, lane 1, Molly Sweeney as she heads down to the turn at the far end of the pool. Out in a 29:08, 29:09. Now coming back here in the middle of the pool here in this heat, we've got Rachel Dawson from Carmel Swim Club. Still leading at the top though is Sweeney, lane 1. And Sweeney's going to win this heat in a winning time of 1:00.38. Fastest swim so far of the session. Second place was Dawson, 1:02.21. And third place in lane 5, Hannah Weldon, 1:02.61. Heat 4 now. Lane 1 will be Sophie Stefanik, 15-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 2 is Anna Stoll, 15-year-old from Southeastern Swim Club. Lane 3, Kayla Barr, 13-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 4 is Paris Christie, the 17-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 5, Haley Sackman, 17-year-old from the Terre Haute Torpedoes. Lane 6 is Ellie Prophet, 16-year-old from Donner Swim Club. Lane 7, Olivia McKee, 16-year-old from the Carmel Swim Club. And in lane 8, Grace DeLuna, 16-year-old from Center Grove Aquatic Club. Sackman leads in lane 5 at the turn. And coming up to challenge her with halfway to go here in this final lap is Dawson, lane 4. And looks like Sackman is going to take the heat, 1:00.92.
Your top two finishers in that heat, both 31.47, 31.89, fastest two splits in the pool.
101.11 for Paris Christie in lane 4. And third place was Profit, 102.60 in lane 6. As we move to heat 5. In lane 1 is Lucy Enoch, 12-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 2 is Claire Sweetwood, 17-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 3, Madeline Lathrop, 15-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 4 is Brooke Cummings, 15-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 5 is Riley Brick, 17-year-old from Warren Aquatics Club. Lane 6 is Kieran Loffrey, 17-year-old from United Swim Association. Lane 7, Elizabeth Eichbricht, 13-year-old unattached swimmer from Michigan. And lane 8, Ava Olson, a 16-year-old from the Southeastern Swim Club.
100-meter freestyle, obviously breathing between the flags is not as much of a challenge if the stroke stays longer. Occasionally athletes will breathe off the turns. I think the coaches are looking for athletes to utilize those same racing skills, those dolphin kicks, that tight body line underwater to maximize push-offs. And the breathing between the flags is not as important, but the turn and racing skills are.
Might be a good finish here. Eichbrick maybe a slight lead here in lane 7. Watching lane 3 come on here. That's Lathrop.
Nobody's broken a minute yet, correct?
That's correct. So the win will go to lane 7. Eichbrick, 101.24 for her. Second place was lane 3, Lathrop, 101.80. Getting third in lane 5 was Bricht in a time of 102.01. We move to heat 6. In lane 1, Mercedes Patterson, a 17-year-old from the Mako swim team. Lane 2 is Lexi Gilly, 17-year-old from Greater Toledo. Lane 3 is Ellie Ricker, 16-year-old from United Swim Association. Lane 4 is Jim and Son, 16-year-old from Spartan Aquatic. Lane 5 is Shiloh Malinowski, 18-year-old from Utica Shelby. Lane 6 is Kaylin Smith, 17-year-old from Force Aquatic. Lane 7, Molly Rogers, 16-year-old from Firestone, Akron. And lane 8, Elizabeth White, 16-year-old from Flashes Aquatics.
Looking for our first athlete to break 1 minute in our 100 freestyle heats. Outside smoke, bottom of our screen, Elizabeth White, Flashes Aquatic at a 21:69.
Tight battle for second, lanes 3, 4, and 5, and see if they can move up and challenge White to finish.
Tight field.
And winning the heat will be White, lane 8, 102.08.
Heat 7.
Second place in that heat, Gilly, 102.24. Third place was Sun in lane 4 in a time of 102.29. Heat 7 now. Lane 1, Jocelyn Dursky, 16-year-old Greater Toledo. Lane 2 is Christina Reiki, a 15-year-old from Westerville Aquatic. Lane 3, Jada Banks, 17-year-old from Boonville Aquatic Dolphins. Lane 4, Lindsay Bowen, 13-year-old Carmel Swim Club. Lane 5 is Hannah Lytle, 18-year-old from Bay City Aquatics. Lane 6, Sophia Resner, 17-year-old Noblesville Swim Club. Lane 7, Tegan Price, a 16-year-old from United Swim Association. And lane 8, Casey Lichtner, 17-year-old from Greater Columbus. Still top time here in the women's 100 freestyle is 1:00.38 here at the auditorium site.
A lot of athletes take a little extra stroke into the wall with a quick breath going into the wall. It is making a difference on the places they come out off the walls. I know that's kind of a coach's pet peeve, is athletes breathing into turns and breathing out of turns. They're utilizing the strength of their underwater racing skills, then they're not so worried about coming off the transition.
Looks like Lindsay Bowen will win this heat in lane 4 from the Carmel Swim Club. 1:00.37, and she moves into first place in the competition here at the IU Natatorium by 1/100th of a second. Second place was Jersky in lane 1, 1:01.36, and third place Reiki in lane 2, 1:01.62. Heat 8 now. Lane 1, Emily Wolf, 12-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 2 is Alexandra Bannon, 17-year-old from the Sugar Creek Swim Club here in Indiana. Lane 3 is Lily Warren, 17-year-old from the Dayton Raiders. Lane 4, Avery Stein, 15-year-old Fishers area. Lane 5 is Annabelle Swinney, 14-year-old from the Zionsville Swim Club. Lane 6, Grace Newfer, 18-year-old from Greenwood Gators. Lane 7 is Peyton Binns, 16-year-old from Hudson Explorer. And in lane 8, Claire Lippert, the 16-year-old from Utica Shelby Swim Club.
So I do have a correction to make. The afternoon session for men will start at 12:30. That was incorrect information I gave you. It's not 12. It is 12:30. The final sessions will still start at 6 o'clock, but the midday session will start at 12:30. We'll try to make continuous updates on that as we go through the morning session. Your leader was lane 1, Lily Warren from Dayton Raiders, out of lane 3, but she's being challenged across the board now in 1, 4, and 5, and 8.
Yeah, you get Wolf in lane 1, the 12-year-old. Coming on strong here in lane 4 is Stein. Who's going to take this? It's going to be Stein in lane 4 from Fishers area, 1:01.06.
31.55 for Stein, almost fastest split in the field. Lippert down at the bottom of our screen had the fastest split, 31.32.
Wolf second in the heat, 1:01.27. Third place, as Tony said, Lippert in lane 8, 1:01.49. In heat 9, lane 1, Sierra Newton, 16-year-old from the Novi Sturgeons. Lane 2 is Sydney Campbell, 18-year-old from Sugar Creek Swim Club. Lane 3, Sloan Antoinette, 16-year-old from Worthington Swim Club. Lane 4, we have Lauren Lowers, 16-year-old from the Birmingham Y team. Lane 5 is Elise McCall, 16-year-old Ole Swimming. Lane 6, Molly Warner, 15-year-old from Utica Shelby. Lane 7 is Kirsten Smith, 17-year-old from Center Grove Aquatic. And in lane 8, Reagan Graves, 14-year-old from the Greenwood Gators.
Still no athletes under a minute. Maybe this could be the first heat for somebody to crack that 00 mark. Plenty of speed on the way out, 28.9. Elise McCall from Ole, 28.93. Let's see if they can get home in 30 seconds or less. McCall with some great legs and tempo, being challenged at the bottom of the screen in lane number 6, Molly Warner.
Good close by lane 8 here. Looks like Elise McCall from
There you
Ole.
go.
59.78, first athlete under a minute, and she moves into first place for the time being in the competition. Second place in lane 6 was Warner, 1:00.86, and third place in lane 8, Reagan Graves, 1:00.98. Heat 10 now. Lane 1, Diane Koo, 17-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 2 is Stacy Zarabalis, 18-year-old from Forest Aquatic Swim Club. Lane 3 is Kathleen Baroker, 16-year-old from Zionsville Swim Club. Lane 4 is Emma Schumacher, 14-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 5, Ashley Friel, 15-year-old from Club Olympia. Lane 6, Kennedy Fisher, 17-year-old from Southeastern Swim Club. Lane 7, Macy Hoagland, 17-year-old from Westfield Aquatics. And in lane 8, Grace Rubel, 17-year-old from Fishers area.
Rubel, bottom of our screen. She's from Fishers area swimming Tigers, 28.78, one of the fastest splits out so far. Athletes now are being seated with 53 and 52 second yard times on their entries. Strong in the middle of the pool, Ashley Friel.
Lane 8 challenging as well here at the finish. Friel's going to take the heat, 1:00.11. Second place in lane 8 was Rubel, 1:00.30. And in third place in lane 3, Baroker, 1:01.02.
Friel went in the battle of the second 50s with a 30.96. Only swimmer under 31 seconds in that heat.
Heat 11, lane 1, Aaron Cummins, 15-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 2 is Larilla Borevska, 17-year-old from the Washington Township team. Lane 3, Josie Conley, 15-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 4 is Grace Doherty, 15-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 5 is Erica Hunkler, 16-year-old from Westfield Aquatics. Lane 6, we have Sydney Cernka, 17-year-old from Plainfield Community. Lane 8 is Jenna Fischler, 17-year-old from Liquid Whitening. And in lane 8, Madison Helmick, 16-year-old from the Birmingham Y team.
Now lane number 3, Josie Conley from Ole getting out quick. First to the wall is Conley, 28.37. Some strong walls down here in 7 and 8. That's Fitzler and Helmick really came off their turns strong and moving up to challenge the leader. Strong second 50s at the bottom of our screen.
Conley, a nice smooth stroke up there in lane 3. Can lane 7 take the win away from her here? Fischler at the finish, going to be close. No, Conley holds on in lane 3, 1:00.36. Second place, Fischler, lane 7, 1:00.62. Third place, lane 8, Helmick, 1:01.34. Heat 12, lane 1 will be Charlie Ramey, 17-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 2 is Brooke Thompson, 16-year-old from Motor City Aquatics. Lane 3 is Ashley Sappel, 16-year-old from the Southeastern Swim Club. Lane 4, we have Evan DiCarlo, 17-year-old from Worthington Swim Club. Lane 5, Ella Roberson, 14-year-old from the Midland Dolphins. Lane 6, Alani Hightower Bend, 18-year-old from the Carmel Swim Club. Lane 7 is Marin Patterson, 14-year-old from Mako Swim Team. And in lane 8, Cameron Kuriger, 17-year-old from Buckeye Swim Club. Top time so far, 59.78.
Only one swimmer under a minute that I can recall at this point, correct?
I think that's correct, yep.
We're into heat 12. Ella Roberson, your leader, 28.52, plenty fast enough to be under that cut. That double O. She's from Midland Dolphins, 14-year-old. Pretty strong. Keep an eye on the top of your screen. Lane 1, that's Ramey. Bottom of our screen, that is Kuriger. Both challenging.
Lane 2 coming on as well here. Let's see if lane 5 hangs on here and wins this. It's Roberson. Or will lane 8 take it away from her? It's going to be Robert Roberson in lane 5. 59.55 for Roberson. And that's the new quickest time overall so far. Second place, lane 8, Kurger, 59.77. And third place in lane 1 was Charlie Ramey in a time of 1:00.39. Heat 13 now, lane 1, Kirsten Harmon, 17-year-old from Dayton Raiders. Lane 2, Addison Carlisle, 12-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 3, we have Kira Kask, 16-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 4, Emily Brown, 14-year-old from Westerville Aquatic. Lane 6 is Alexandra Shackle, 14-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 6, Lara Phipps, 15-year-old from Center Grove Aquatic. Lane 7, Emma Horton, 18-year-old from Washington Township. And in lane 8, Elena Zabo, 17-year-old from Hudson Explorer Aquatic.
So we're getting into some very fast yard times here. 50.60 and 51.06 are yard times seated in the with the two athletes in the middle of the pool. The remainder of the heats are all seated at meters time, so we're going to see probably some pretty quick swims here in this heat.
And we've got Brown and Shackle in lanes 4 and 5 battling right now. Slight lead for Shackle.
Junior National cut, 57.59, and there you go. There is a 57.59, 57.08, sorry, for Alexander Shackle. That is a Junior National time standard.
57.08, Shackle wins the heat. Second place in the time of 58.36, Brown. And third place was Addison Carlisle in a time of 59.29. Move to heat 14 now. Lane 1, Caliapo Agapios, 17-year-old from Fishers area. Lane 2 is Phoebe Ferguson, 17-year-old from the United Swim Association. Lane 3 is Haley Reed, 17-year-old from the Carmel Swim Club. Lane 4 we have Sophie Kloppenberg, 16-year-old from the Mount Vernon Swim Team. Lane 5 is Mia Nagel, 17-year-old from Firestone Akron. Lane 6 is Nanami Campbell, 16-year-old from Worthington Swim Club. Lane 7 is Carrie Caniglia, 16-year-old from Firestone Akron. And lane 8, Margaret Patterson, 16-year-old from Hudson Explorer.
It's heat 14, all meters entry times here. These athletes may have had more experience in meters, so look for a fast time or two in this heat as well. Looks like lane number 4, 28.65, that's Kloppenberg from Mount Vernon Swim Team.
Good race at the bottom of your screen here between Caniglia and Patterson.
Yeah, outside smoke down here in 8. You're right, 7 and 8, Caniglia and Patterson. You are calling it, but also lane number 3, Haley Reed from Carmel trying to sneak in.
It's going to be a really close finish here. And it is going to be Reed in lane 3 who takes the win at the finish in a time of 59.42. And second place was Margaret Patterson, 59.66. And Sophie Kloppenberg got third in lane 4, 59.87.
During our 5-minute break before we start the 1500s, we'll update you on the times from the first couple events here and our athletes' top 8 finishes here at the Indy site.
And all of a sudden it got a whole lot brighter here in the IU Natatorium as the sun came out.
Yeah, natural lighting. Yeah. How about that? All right, Sunday morning women session.
So 5-minute break, as Tony said. The heats 15 through 18, by the way, in the women's 100-meter freestyle will swim tonight at the championship session, which starts at 6 p.m.
So we'll give you the top 8 finishers in the women's 200 IM and the 100 freestyle here at the Indy site. We'll be swimming fastest to slowest in the 1500, so we're actually starting out with heat 2.
Mm-hmm. We'll have 2 heats of time finals this morning in the 1500. Here are your top 8 times from the Indianapolis side here at the IU Natatorium in the women's 200-meter IM through our first session this morning. Caitlin Salo's the leader from Buckeye, from the Buckeyes team, 2:24.37. Second place, Alyssa Street, Carmel Swim Club, 2:24.84. Third place, Grace Doherty, 2:27.20 her time. Fourth place was Diane Koo from Fishers area, 2:27.76. Fifth place, Josie Conley from Ole, 2:27.77. Sixth place, Mia Nagel, 2:28.20. Seventh place, Margaret Patterson, in a time of 2:28.32. And in eighth place was Kiera Leisinger in a time of 2:28.44 from Riptide.
Our women's 100 freestyle results.
So again, a break here. An upcoming women's 1500 meter freestyle. Here's our top 8 times from the women's 100 meter freestyle here from the Indianapolis site this morning. This does not include the Elkhart site. First place, Alexander Shackle, Carmel Swim Club, 57.08. Second place, Emily Brown, 58.36. Third place was Addison Carlisle in a time of 59.29. Fourth place, Haley Reed, time of 59.42. Fifth place, Ella Roberson, at a time of 59.55. Sixth place, Margaret Patterson, her time 59.66. Seventh place, Cameron Curriger from the Buckeyes team, 59.77. And eighth place, Elise McCall from Ole, 59.78.
Just a reminder that the second session, some incorrect information I may have given you. I hope you're still listening. The men's session actually starts at 12:30, not 12 o'clock. And the final session, championship session, still does start at 6. So 12:30 for the men's afternoon session, not 12. We hopefully you'll just won't miss anything because actually it's a little bit later than what I was broadcasting. So remember, 12:30 for the men's session.
So upcoming here in a few minutes, Heat 2. We're going to start with Heat 2 of the women's 1500 meter freestyle. Heat 1 will swim tonight in the championship session. So we'll have 2 heats of time finals this morning. The women's 1500 meters, and it'll be 30 lengths of the pool. And each swimmer will have a lap counter for this race. Meet record set in 2019 by Mariah Denigan, 16:33.98. Olympic trial cut in this event is 16:49.19. Athletes getting positioned behind the blocks. Lane assignments here we're going to start with Heat 2. In lane 1, Cerise Schlitt, 16-year-old from Bay City Aquatics. Lane 2 is Ashley Salo, 16-year-old from Buckeye Swim Club. Lane 3, Reagan Mattice, 17-year-old from the Zionsville Swim Club. Lane 4, Allison Danko, 17-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 5, Erin Cummins, 15-year-old from Carmel Swim Club. Lane 6 is Julia Quinn, 18-year-old from Dayton Raiders. Lane 7 is Kate Mauser, 16-year-old from Fishers area. And in lane 8, Tegan Madara, 15-year-old from Power Aquatics. So we're underway. Heat 2, women's 1500 meter freestyle. Time finals.
You didn't miss Heat 1. Heat 1 will be swum in finals tonight. So this is Heat 2, so we swim fastest and slowest in the distance events here at the Speedo Sectionals. Will be followed by Heat number 3 upcoming. 1500 freestyle. Coaches break it up into different segments, trying to get the athletes to think about progressing their effort throughout the race. They use the term descend your 500s, descend your 400s, build into the first 400. They put great value on pacing and good controlled speed on the way out in the particular race. We've watched a lot of thousands and 1650s over the last few weekends, but now we're watching a lot more, as you put, open water swim in the 1500 meters here. So the lead can change, but when we reference splits on the scoreboard, we'll be referencing showing that athletes are their racing strategies and where they're putting their emphasis throughout the race.
Still 30 turns, though, so walls can certainly have importance here.
Brooke Bennett used to be one of USA Swimming's top elite athletes in distance for many years, and I looked at her, watched her race analysis on video, and then I watched the post-race analysis, and she was stuck at times or within time frame for quite a period of time, and then with the race analysis that she showed that by improving her turns, or at least in the red zones, she could drop time, and she dropped 8 to 10 seconds just by emphasizing that part of her races and not just swimming between the flags. So national team athletes, to your point, really emphasizing turns throughout the entire distance event.
Actually 29 turns, I said 30.
You don't see coaches getting all too energetic here on the front half yet.
They don't want to wear themselves out either.
Got the arms up in the air, you're steady. You're feeling you're solid. You know, they're trying to give them, you know, with both arms up, you're right on pace. You're exactly where we want you to be on the way out. Set up your race appropriately, and you'll have a great back half. At the 200, Danko from Oli, 2:18.31. She splits a 35.55, and that is the fastest split in the pool. Doesn't matter as much now as we see our distance race. We watched Lucy Malis in the 800 earlier in the competition, and just how she built into the back half of her race and really had a great performance. So we'll watch her tonight. Lap counters here at the IU Natatorium are on sticks down at the broomsticks down at the other end, which if you ask anybody who lap counts for the distance athletes, it's great because they don't have to kneel down on the bulkheads. But we've also seen them drop a lap counter or two throughout the last month. So you always wonder what goes through the mind of the athlete when they see the lap counter on the bottom of the pool instead of in front of them. Stuff happens. At the 300.
And Danko leading.
So Reagan Matisse and Ellison Danko. Reagan Matisse, 35.55. She is the fastest split in the pool at this point. She builds into her first 400. Coaches break it up, whatever works for their philosophy, whether it's 400s or 500s. Sometimes the 400s, the athletes at least have a comparable mindset because they do swim the 400, so they understand the time frame of what it takes to swim a 400. But they break it up as whatever works in their philosophy and communicate that to the athlete. Coaches on the sidelines right now. I think if they, at this point, coaches actually want to show they're relaxed. They want to show the athletes, giving a little bit of a signal. Move up with your competition. Be in the race. Don't get too far behind the competition. You're fine as far as your swimming goes, but your competition, you need to be close to be in the race on the back half.
And coaches can use the lap counter, too, if they feel like they need to pick them up a little bit.
Danko, the fastest split in the pool at a 35.53. She splits a 4:40 on the way out. We'll compare the 400s as they come through the build into the 800 now. This is, as we watch through many distance races, having races within the races. So right now our two leaders are in 3 and 4, but also lanes 5 and 7. Have a nice race, and it's kind of a blessing sometimes to have somebody across the pool that you know you're racing against. Kind of gives you a visual, not just rely on your coaches. So races within the races, as you're watching from home, you'll see that. When they have a race, they're thinking about racing. They're not thinking about how their body feels or their stroke feels or their kick, your legs getting tired, whatever the case. Find their zone.
So 500 meters.
Moving up in 7 is Kate Mauser from Fisher's Area Swimming Tigers. Danko, 35.91, still holding at 35 splits, 110 for the 100. Reagan Mattice, 36.17. Kind of snuggling up next to the lane line there. And yes, athletes can draft off athletes in races. It's something that does happen. Athletes probably don't, swimmers don't follow NASCAR too much, but I can guarantee you what you see on the TV in the NASCAR races is a true thing that happens in the pool as well. And then you see the athlete or going back to your lap counter, if you were talking about the lap counter can signal. Coach will ask the lap counter to move the lap counter into the far corner of the lane, basically signaling to the athlete, get away from the draft.
Okay.
Move your position in the lane and break that draft. And you can see Danko more towards the right side of the lane now, coming back towards the starting end.
She still leads in lane 4. She's through 600 meters.
Keep an eye on lane 5 Cummings starting to make a little bit of a move here. And Mauser both, 36.0 and 36.21. Not that far off the lead. Still not even at midpoint of the race just yet. Outside lane, you've got your coach standing right there with you. I think it's kind of hard to think just about racing if your coach is right there. But occasionally that keeps you going, keeps you pushing through the pain. You know, something's up with the scoreboard because I know Aaron Cummins didn't split a 31.84 on that split. Occasionally we see splits that get off kilter. You kind of have to take the average. Danko, still your leader. Reagan Mattice, lane 3, right on her hip still. Moving up slowly, though, is Erin Cummins from Carmel and Kate Mauser from Fishers in 7. So wouldn't say this race is over yet. We're going to see a lot of athletes build into the back half of this race, or our leaders take that next step. One more 100 coming up to the 800. Looks like Danko picked up the pace just a little bit. It's probably been schooled well. You know, where are those key points in the race? How do coaches communicate to the athletes what that is in short course yards? It's a much quicker visual. You know, you're at a wall, you know it's time to push off and go. Some of the athletes make a move in the middle of the pool here in long course meters and don't wait till the wall for that to happen. So Danko picked it up a little bit, but Reagan Mattice decided to answer back. Cummins at a 35.72, 35.53 from Mauser. Get a little tighter here.
Yeah, it's starting to tighten up a little bit as we get into the back half of this race now, as we get ready to come through 800 meters at the starting block end, with Danko still leading in 4.
An 8:29 at the excuse me, 9:29. My fault. So a 440 and a 449 on our first two 400 splits for our leaders.
Attention coaches, might be coaches, might be swimmers, had some glasses that were just turned into here. They were found right here, just
well, the
to my left.
two swimmer battles now may be turning into a 3 swimmer battle and potentially 4. Right now, well, Aaron Cummins is doing some great splitting, 30.47. I don't think that's right, but
yeah,
the scoreboard keeps getting a little wacky on the touch pads down at the other end, but you can tell that Aaron Cummins is starting to make a move and getting up on the feet of our 2 leaders.
Yeah, I could see her lap counter the last couple of laps starting to move that board up and down, perhaps signaling her a little bit to start your get the move on a little bit and get up there and challenge for that lead.
Yep. All right. Still Danko. Aaron Cummins is moving up, so we'll see if we can get a more accurate split. With Danko at 35.62, still the fastest split. Keep an eye on Reagan Mattice, who looks like she may be inching ahead. Let's see if Danko answers back here. These kind of races are fun for coaches to watch. They can really see strategy and the training and everything to kind of come together, and you get to watch it at a slower pace than 100 free. So, you know, you can break it down and relate so much more back to the athlete. I know distance swims are longer events and challenging, but you can also relate so much more back to training in these events than you can in some of the shorter races. So athletes will get out and talk to the coaches. There'll be a lot of feedback, and now we've got a three-way battle. Wouldn't count out Kate Mauser just yet either.
If she's still on her race strategy, she might definitely play a factor in the win here as well in this first heat of the women's 1,500 meter freestyle.
Tice now your leader. She splits 36.20. Erin Cummins with 35.78, so you can see how she's made her move. Still keeping, all three athletes keeping good distance per stroke here. Fastest split in the pool does go to Cummins. She started out very and built into that first 400 to 500. Wasn't worried about being, you know, off the pace, but coach actually kind of signaled her just a little bit to get it, you know, don't get too far behind on that race. Ladies.
So Cummins here, looks like now starting to edge ahead here in lane 5.
Danko's answering back though. The goal here when the coaches ask you to pick up and start building into the back half of the race, they don't want you to do it all at once. If you jump on it too quickly, you end up losing your legs, or losing your rhythm. So Danko answered back, and she was actually the fastest split in the pool on that last 50. And it makes the athletes, you know, you think because somebody passes them, you know, that they're tired. It's not necessarily the case. They're just kind of into a rhythm, and it's time for them to change their tempo or work a wall a little bit quicker, because now you see the, you know, first and second swimmers going into the wall almost simultaneously, and turns sometimes make a difference. If you lose a draft or you lose a place, it's coming from the turns. Athletes are swimming well between the flags. Going back to your point about 29 turns, how that helps your distance events.
As far as the kick being added in right now, it looks like of the three battling for the lead, it looks like Erin Cummins has added the most kick at this point here.
Her kick is just, it's not, you know, she doesn't overkick. It's enough for good body balance. Yeah. Danko answers back 35.09. So I'm not quite sure. I was trying to find where her coach was, but obviously the coach signaled something to her and asked her to get into her groove, start building on that last 400. Just you can see the complexity of the 1,500 isn't just one big straight swim.
No.
It isn't about just swimming for a time when you're in a race. It does change, and Danko is finding a second gear here.
Yeah. So Cummins came up and challenged her, and she answered back. Let's see what Cummins has left in the tank as we get down to the closing stages of this race.
You know, it's interesting what athletes say when they come back to their coaches and they're evaluating this race. I can't tell you how many times an athlete will come back and say, well, I had a stitch. You know, and it's just one of those little cramps they get in their side, and they just had to work through it. And, you know, I was feeling a little queasy, and then all of a sudden I felt better, or my legs were tight and I loosened up. I mean, there's just a lot of feedback that comes in these races.
So we'll have the bell lap next time by at the starting block end.
Lap counter going up and down pretty quick there for Danko.
Yeah.
Nothing drives a swimmer crazy than to kick those lap counters, though. Danko with a great closing, with some great closing speed as she comes up to the bell lap.
Open warm-up will still be at 10 o'clock. But again, we'll let you know when you can move over into that competition pool.
Allison from Ole Swimming to get the bell here. 2 laps of the pool left here. Women's 1,500 meter freestyle.
For Allison Danko, she turns into 16:56:59. Ahead of Erin Cummins.
Kate Mauser in 4th. Still having a great swim down here in 7. Sitting 35.99 on that split. One of the fastest splits in the pool right now. Great closing speed across the board. So that tight race where there was 4 across the board, the athletes have now separated themselves. And let's look at the cuts times that they're trying to achieve. They're at 17:11 right now, so we're looking for that 17:40.19, which is the futures cut. Junior national cut 17:11.29. Cummins with some great closing speed here as well. Really attacking with her legs now. Allison Danko from Ole is going to take heat number 2 of the 1,500.
Yep. And heat 1 swims tonight in the championship session. And we'll see what Allison Danko is going to set the time standard here at the IU Natatorium for this event. 17:46.97. And Erin Cummins, a 17:49.28. Finishing 3rd, Reagan Mattice, in a time of 17:55.68. As we get ready for heat 3 now, it's the final heat of the women's 1,500. Got a couple more swimmers to finish. So here in heat 3, in lane 1, it'll be Morgan Hoffmeister, 16-year-old from United Swim Association. Lane 2 is Alexander Aiken, 15-year-old from Indiana Swim Club. Lane 3, Madison Helmick, 16-year-old from Birmingham YB. Lane 4 is Megan Delaire, 16-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 5 is Emma Kate Zanoli, 15-year-old from Ole Swimming. Lane 7 is going to be Katharina Lahner from Ole Swimming. And lane 7 is Addison Zernecki, 14-year-old from Carmel Swimming. And lane 8, Kaylee Gallagher, 17-year-old from Ole Swimming.
As a reminder, the men's session, I was giving you some incorrect information earlier. The men's afternoon session starts at 12:30, not 12. We'll put that out on social media just as a reminder that that broadcast will start a little bit later, so nobody will miss it. Obviously, it'll be just a little bit later in the time frame of the day. Again, the cut times athletes are working towards, a sectional cut here is at 18:15:59. You repeat a sectional cut, and that's good for hopefully another year or even longer sometimes. This qualifying period for this meet went all the way back to June of 2019, just because there had been so few long course meets that athletes have that opportunity. That time does belong to the athletes. So depending on when the eligibility is for the entry to the meet is obviously how it's defined, but these times do belong to the athlete, and they can enter open water swims with it. And the 1,500 won't be offered all too many times this summer. You know, it's just meets are just going to be too filled, and the time it takes to run the 1,500s, they just don't offer it. So the 800 and the 1,500 can go together, so the athletes get an 800 split here, and that you can enter a meet off that split time. The athletes may not swim the 1,500 this summer until maybe their championship meet. So not a lot of time for experience. So these swims here at Speedo Sectional, very valuable. Coming up on the 200, let's check out who our leaders are. And they look like they're three abreast here.
Yeah, they are. We've got in lane 4, Megan Delaire from Ole. In lane 5, Emma Kate Zanoli, also from Ole. And then in lane 6, another Ole teammate is Lohner.
You know, I was watching the girls behind the block, and, you know, they're very conscious about their caps. You know, they want to make sure that they're fitting tight. Some of them, you know, silicone caps. The majority of the time athletes will wear racing caps or even double caps. But we have seen, you know, through the last month, we've seen a cap or two come off in a distance event, and that can be quite distracting. But, you know, the athletes really try to get that tight fit, making sure that the goggles are tight to their eyes as they dive in. And you've seen the athletes lose goggles in an event, and still going a 1500 with no goggles. And it's very distracting to the athlete, doesn't give them a comfortable feel throughout the race. You look at our athletes right now, 36-1, 36-0, 36-2, but our leader is Alex Aiken over there. No, it's not. That split was incorrect. Alex is in 2. Get some weird splits off the scoreboard, aren't we?
Zernecki is actually the third swimmer that's battling for the lead with Zanoli and Lohner.
Just watching the scoreboard and not watching the pool, so keep a close eye on the pool there. 2 Ole swimmers, first and second. And then we've got a great race going on in lanes 1, 2, 3, and 4. So as we saw in the first heat, we saw a lot of athletes build into, in particular Aaron Cummins built into the back half of the race, made a pretty challenging race out of it. So let's watch and see if we see these athletes build through the first 800 and move up into that group of 3 leaders we have in 5, 6, and 7. So let's see if anybody in that pack of 1, 2, 3, and 4 can move up as well. Again, it's kind of a blessing to have somebody to race in the 1500, even if it's your teammate that you train with almost every day. Sarnecki in lane 7 from Carmel in his third. The 2 Ole teammates almost simultaneously at the 400, a 4:44, 1:8. Your leader is an Ole. We'll start watching some of the splits into pool as we move through this next 400 to see who's taking the lead. Scoreboard's not always our best friend right now because we're seeing a lot of weird splits up there. So sometimes we have to eyeball it as well. Coaches and teammates on the sidelines getting a little excited here. .444 was the 400 split for our leaders.
We're going to come through 500 yards to 500 meters here.
36.00 and 36.05 for our 2 leaders, holding 112s. Let's take a look at the rest of the field. I know our athletes are not holding 40s and 45s, so I think probably 37s across the board is a good average split. Yeah, Eric, I think you're right. You mentioned this the other day that the lap counters are hitting the touchpad and throwing them off, throwing the splits off.
Yeah, I think that's the case because it looks like sometimes that the split actually records before the swimmer actually makes the turn.
Yep. But if it's a 45, which is a little bit different, that leads you to believe it would be later.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. If the lap counter is shutting it off, the time would be faster, not slower. So, well, we'll keep an eye on it. We had a good split there. A reading of splits as we come through the sequence here. 36.19 for Zanoli, Lohner, 36.38 Second wave of athletes. Still the average is about that, you know, it looks like Alex Aiken there was a 36.83, so she's starting to move in that second pack. Still about averaging about 37 lows across the board for our second wave of athletes. Yep, you can see the scoreboard. The time did shut off before the athletes got to the wall there, and more than one of the swimmers in lanes 2 and 3, both of them shut off before the swimmers got to the touchpad.
So battle for the lead remains 2 teammates, probably 2 training partners out front through 700 meters here. You got Zanoli in 5 and Lohner in 6.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about our leaders here and exactly what they're doing throughout their race. Their splits are within tenths of seconds of each other, and I'm not talking about each other, their own splits. They're 36.0, 36.19, and they are basically foot to foot, you know, almost hitting exactly each 50 where they're supposed to be. That continuous steady pacing is really going to help them on the back half of this race. And don't think that's a norm. Those are things that coaches will work with athletes on splits and stroke events, and they're going obviously to a hand touch, but when they work with distance swimmers on pacing, they're working from foot touch to foot touch. And I can't, you know, if this is kind of crazy because we're looking across the board in like 4 or 5 lanes, and splits are getting off at the opposite end of the pool. And maybe that's what the broomsticks may be convenient, but maybe they cause a little bit of challenge with the splits. And again, 36.1 for Zanoli, our leader, and she was right at 36.09, so hundredths of seconds difference. And Lohner right next to her, you can see where the touchpad shut off at the other end. So in third right now is Zarnicki in 7. Coming up in the middle of the pool, though, in lane number 4 is Delaray from Ole, starting to build into her race. A little bit more. Aiken over in 2. Looks to be right behind Delaray. Ole swimmers are well schooled as they start making a move here. You can see their tempo increase. Maybe playing off each other, maybe just working with each other. Not bad to have teammates. You think about a cycling race, how, you know, athletes will work together, and some of them will pull and then they'll rotate. But you can see how athletes can work together side by side to help their pacing. 36.49, 36.44. Zarnicki in 3rd, coming up to the wall. She splits at 37.23. Lane number 4 is Delaray. She splits at 37.18. And Alex Aiken 37.14. So quite a race starting to develop for 3rd in the heat. Let's see who's got the best back half. '19 at the far end. 36.15, 36.2. You know, occasionally you'll see athletes will swim faster in one direction than another, and and coaches are saying, well, there must be a current in the pool. You don't know why, but occasionally there's, in certain pools, there is a, you know, better lighting at one end, and they're more comfortable going into a turn. Not the Nat, though. The Nat's well lit tank.
Well, coming up on the completion of the first 1,000 meters here. Still the 2 Ole swimmers out front there, Zanoli and Lohner.
36.35, 36.54 for the 2 teammates as they're neck and neck.
Zarnicki in lane 7 is in 3rd. Makes her turn at the 1,000-meter mark.
37.2. Lane 4, Delaray. 37.5. Aiken, again, a little off because of the touchpad at the other end, but right on the hip of Delaray. So great race there. Races within our races. Keep an eye on lane number 8, Gallagher from Ole, having a nice back half. She's been in that outside lane down here. We haven't called her name often, but I'm seeing her start to move up with a 36.87 split. So keep an eye on her as well, moving into that second pack. Zanoli with a slight lead, maybe. Let's watch who wins the battle of the turn here at the start end. Both athletes trying to ride their distance off the walls. Zanoli 36.15, fastest split in the pool. And again, keep an eye on the bottom of your screen, 37.29 for Zarnecki. Even on the bottom of your screen here. 37.40 for Gallagher.
And another Ole swimmer moving up, trying to get into the battle for fourth in the heat here.
Yep, we're getting some mixed results on the scoreboard for whatever reason, from lap counters, whatever the case may be. Still a battle of our leaders here. Futures cut 17.40, Speedo sectional cut 18.59. 36.51 for Zanoli, 36.67. So I think pretty soon you're going to see athletes start to work on closing speed. So the battle now, you know, Zarnecki's in third here, and she's hanging tough. But Aiken over there in 2, and in lane number 8 at the bottom of your screen, Gallagher starting to move away. Move strong in the back half of the race. Zarnecki's kind of been swimming that race out there by herself, but if a few of these athletes start moving up, maybe she'll be able to answer. So coaches, as we saw in the last heat, you know, some of our athletes really built into it, and then our leader just answered the challenge and started with some great closing speed and finished strong. "26 laps completed down here at the turn end."
Yeah,
so don't get up with the bell yet.
Zanoli has moved out to about a body length lead here.
36.3, 36.9.
meters.
It's not always about getting faster. It's about maintaining pace. You can just maintain that same pace throughout the race. Not always an easy thing to do, but that is the key to the 1500. Zarnecki 37.37. Aiken turns at a 36.82, so she's starting to pick up the back half of her race. You can see dropping down under 37. Gallagher 37.59 in lane 8. Started to come on in 3 as well. 36.99 is Helmick. So you can see the athletes, you know, once they've gotten through that first 3 segments of the race, really working on this last 300.
So they'll get the bell this time, the 2 leaders will. And time to beat from the previous heat, 17:46.97. Zanoli leads by a body length with 100 meters left over Lohner.
Lohner came off the wall strong with a little power right off her wall, so we're going to see some great closing speed here. Zarnecki in third.
She gets the bell, lane 7. see what Lohner's got left in the tank as she makes the turn at the far end. Can she overtake her teammate Zanoli on this final 50 meters? This may end up being a close race here.
Two teammates pushing each other pretty much for the entire 1500. All right, sectional cut 18:15:59. They will have this time standard to be able to use for future events entering the Speedo sectional meet.
So Zanoli's going to win this heat in a time of 18:01:89.
Zarnecki with some fresh legs here, looks like, coming back strong. Aiken at the top of your screen with some good closing speed.
18:03:47 was the time for Lohner. Let's see what Zarnecki stops the clock at. Gets third in the heat in a time of 18:23:84. And Aiken is going to take fourth, 18:27:65. So again, the first heat of the women's 1500 meters will swim tonight in the championship session. That'll get started at 6 p.m. here on the Indiana Swimming YouTube channel. Let's take a second to thank camera operators here this morning. Amy Cotterer, Alyssa Vitito, and Stephen Vitito.
Well, let's see real quick before we sign off if we have the 1500 results.
Also thanks to Ethan Leach, directed the cameras, switched the cameras for our broadcast this morning here at the IU Natatorium.
I don't think we've got quite the update yet.
So just a reminder, our next session here, the men's session here, final day of competition at the 2021 Speedo Sectionals. Going to get started at 12:30 here at the IU Natatorium. That's 12:30 here on the Indiana Swimming YouTube channel. Women's 1500, top 8 times here from this site here at the IU Natatorium does not include Elkhart. Allison Danko from Ole, 17:46.97. Second place, Aaron Cummins, Carmel Swim Club, 17:49.28. Third place, Reagan Matai, 17:55.68. Fourth place was Emma Kate Zanoli, 18:01.89. Fifth place, Kate Mauser, 18:0.10 the time. Sixth place, Katharina Lohner, 18:03.47 from Ole. Seventh place, Addison Zernecki from Carmel Swim Club, 18:23.84. And in eighth place, Ashley Salos from the Buckeyes team in a time of 18:25.82. So that's going to wrap up our morning session. Reminder to join us at 12:30 p.m. as the men will take to the pool in the same events you just saw here this morning, the 200 individual medley, the 100 freestyle, and the 1500 free. That's at 12:30 p.m. here on the Indiana Swimming YouTube channel. So that'll wrap up competition this morning from the IU Natatorium. For the Executive Director of Indiana Swimming, Tony Young, I'm Eric Eaton saying so long, everyone, and thanks for watching.